talk about them, and then I'll start editing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first... It's nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice meeting you as well.
Okay, so the very first thing that I do when I start an edit is you have to have a vision. I mean, you can go in, and sometimes I'll go in and the vision kind of starts to come alive, but if it's not clear, it's going to take forever, and you're going to kind of not end up where you necessarily wanted to. So of these images, which image do you want me to start with? Just
whichever one. I said about you whichever one you wanted to pick.
The what?
Whichever one you want to pick, to be honest.
So, what is there like a technique or something that you are like, hey, I really want to know how you do this?
Well, definitely with composites, my selection is horrible. So I do need to learn how to like do the select and the subject and merge it so that it doesn't look like I Photoshop her out and put her back somewhere. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. So I'm trying to see if there's a selection here, like where we could move one person to another place.
Mm-hmm. Probably not.
The best way to make a selection, because typically whenever I do composites, are you talking about like the real specific how to cut a person out, or you just...
Yeah, when you, for example, I think you had one in a playground and you moved your daughter, like you had selected her, moved her out.
Oh, the one where she's jumping?
Yeah.
Okay, so easy. I do a mask. Okay, I'll show you. I'll do an example. The first one that kind of jumped out at me was this series.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do sky overlays typically?
To be honest, I don't do them as much because I usually will underexpose so that I can retain my sky, or I get a sky from the same day and I just drop it in, and that's kind of
okay. I'm gonna show you how to do a sky overlay because it's pretty simple. Especially with the ones that you have. Oh, I love this beach one. I'm trying to figure out, do you want to do the beach one first or the flower field? Or the yellow flower field?
Let's do the flower field.
Okay, I like that flower field. Yeah, that's so super cute. Okay, so I am going to so what I do, especially, I'm kind of like a sky overlay junkie because I feel almost like it's easier to add a sky than it is to make specific light adjustments only to the person. Okay. Do you ever find that when you're making the adjustments, it's almost like there's not a happy transition, or it sometimes looks like...
And for example, when you have trees, I feel like the branches get like this blue, darker, like it just looks fake.
Yes, even if it's a real sky. Yeah. So I struggle with that a lot too. So that's why I typically lean towards doing the overlay. So I'm going to do an overlay for this one. Now, this, I'm going to just blow this out, knowing that I'm going to add a sky later. So the first thing that I would do for this one, I think I'm going to reframe in Photoshop, because if I do content aware fill, like if I extend the background at all, I'll be able to just do it there and I won't lose any information. Okay. So the first thing I do is I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to be really careful of this spot on her arm, not to blow it out in this guy right here, or the hot spot on her shirt. But I'm going to kind of bring it up just a little bit. Careful not to blow that out. And then I'm going to do most of my adjustments in Photoshop. I like the white balance. What I normally do for white balance is I will just interrupt me if you are like,
oh, no, you're fine.
If you want me to go a different direction or whatever. Okay, so I normally look for there to be at least a 10% difference between blue and red. Mm-hmm. So that's looking almost good. It needs to be a little bit more yellow. There it is. Just on the brightest spot. And you don't want the brightest spot's red to be over 90. Okay, I'm going to fix most of this in Photoshop, so I'm going to go ahead and export it out. So you said you struggle with like mostly Like, is it your vision, or is it just not being able to do what you want to do?
I have a vision, but for the oldest one, obviously, like, she's more aware of the camera, so it's harder for me to get just more candid stuff.
Yeah.
And the other one is just all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. Like, I didn't have a vision. Like, that playground that I showed you, it was like a ship. It was so cool, and I kind of wanted to get her on the top. Like, but it's like you cannot. Obviously, kids are going to do whatever they want to do. So it's very hard for me. Like, I see something, and then it's hard for me to convey it, like, in a photograph.
Yes. No, I think that's. I waited tables for so many years. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of keep moving here.
I love the editing. I know some people don't. I love editing. I don't know as much or more than I like photographing.
I know. That's me too. I've learned over the years that, especially with my kids, sorry, I'm just trying to.
You're fine.
Think here. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, I think I'm going to work on let me do my crop first. So I'm going to crop this image. So one of the things that makes your images pop is your composition, obviously. And if you don't have a strong composition, then the whole image is just going to fall flat. You can have an amazing edit, and if the composition is weak, and vice versa, it kind of has to be like a package deal here. Let me see. Kind of like that. I'm going to have her fall on the rule of thirds. This is kind of what I always end up going back to. And then I'm going to also see if I sometimes go slow when I'm recording. I'm also going to see what this image would look like flipped. Yeah. I like that energy a little bit better.
I so do. Yep.
You know? And I always do that. Especially, like, sometimes I'll just flip back and forth just to kind of see what I like better. I'm going to move it over slightly. I almost want to bring this down just a little bit. I'm kind of trying to have the horizon on the rule of thirds as well. Something else that I do, especially with people when you're compositing, is like sometimes hair is the biggest pain in the butt in the world. I add fake hair.
Okay.
So I will like Google hair PNG, which a PNG is and I'm recording this session, so you can look back at it later too.
Okay, cool.
So a PNG basically means that that has no background. And so, like with the swing shot with my daughter and her friend swinging, and then I completely redid the sky. I redid everything. I don't know if you remember that one. Her hair is fake. So
really?
Yeah, I mean, there was part of it that just wasn't compositing well. So I just got fake hair that was just like swinging in the wind, and then that was what I did. So your sky is mostly blown out. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to. There's a thing called delete background, and I'm going to duplicate my layer right here. I'm going to Command J and duplicate the layer. So I'm going to destroy this top layer just to make sure I preserve this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the background. It's called background eraser tool.
Okay.
And then up here, actually, hold on. No, I think I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I want this to be white. Hold on. I want this to be white, but I'm going to use the brush tool. Sorry, let me think just a second.
You're fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, sometimes when I have skies, I will just paint white on the background. Because the blend mode that I use for skies, I always use the darken blend mode. And what darken blend mode does is it darkens. It only shows up where it's really bright, and it doesn't show up where it's dark. Okay. So anything that's like darker, it's not going to show up at all. So I'm hoping that these flowers are going to be dark enough to kind of compensate for that. So what I'm doing is I'm using the white brush on the overlay mode instead of just the normal, and it will only paint on the color that it kind of started with. So it's not going to paint on the darker parts.
Okay. And overlay mode. Okay.
I know, you never think about it. So I'm going to kind of get it going up here. Hold on just a second.
I'm sorry, why are you doing it in overlay mode?
Because in overlay mode, when you paint it on, it makes the whites whiter and the darks darker. So if you choose white, then it makes the bright ones brighter, but it doesn't affect the dark.
Okay, got it.
Now, in some instances, like this bright is still yellow. It's still bright, so it's gonna try to make that brighter.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one's not working very well. But I think this is good for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a sky in so I can start getting my vision. Because if I can kind of see my sky, and I'm going to go with it, because it's such a bright day, I'm going to look for a sky that has a bright, really bright, maybe there's even some sun. We might even be able to like add a sun over here because we've got this bright spot.
The traveling as well.
So I keep all of my overlays in one location, and I keep them all here. And I some people do libraries. I don't do libraries because it slows everything down.
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to, and sometimes this is a matter of.
I love Florabella.
Oh yeah, I use them a lot too.
Sun overlays are really good too.
They're what?
Their sun, the rays and overlays, the starbursts and whatnot, very good.
Probably have them. I'm sure I do. I know I have theirs, so their skies. I have so many at this point that sometimes I just don't even know what I have anymore. All right, so I'm going to adjust the sky, and then I'm going to switch it to darken mode. And sometimes okay, so what you can see here is you can see her shine through, but she's got this bright spot that didn't show through, which is fine. But it's kind of a good start. Like we've got a start to it where we don't have to completely go through. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to make a selection. I'm going to hide my sky real quick, and I'm going to go through and make a selection. And this is one way that you can make a selection super easy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the channel key. Do you ever do this?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to click on one at a time. So basically what this means is if your blue channel is showing, everything that's super white is going to have blue in it, and everything that's super dark has no blue in it.
Okay.
And so this kind of helps you make a selection, especially right on the sky. So and I just go through and I find the one where my background sticks out the most. And in this case, it is the blue.
The blue.
So then I'm going to take the blue and I'm going to slide it down to this folder right here. It makes a new layer. So now I have a blue layer. So I can mess this layer up and it's not going to affect the image because I can just delete it later.
Okay.
Then I'm going to go up to image adjustment. This makes the adjustment on the layer so you can't change it. Not curves, I meant layer levels. So I'm going to do image adjustments, levels. And I'm going to make the darks darker to make more of a contrast. So what I'm trying to do is create, because I don't care if she gets too dark. I just don't want, I see how her hair is standing out, but I don't want that to kind of get selected. So I'm going to bring that up just a little bit. All right, I think that's good for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select OK. And then I'm going to command click, and it's going to make a selection.
Wait,
Command click on the layer, and it's going to make a selection.
Okay.
So then I'm going to click back on my RGB. I'm going to unselect that channel. I'm going to go back to my layers. I'm going to open my sky, and then I'm going to create a masking layer.
Nice.
There we go. So it kind of filled out, it didn't fill this out, which is fine, but I can still go through. So let's turn this off and see what that did. Oops, excuse me. Yeah. So watch the flowers.
Yep.
It added them back. So there is going to be some things that we need to kind of fix, but that's okay. So this is a good start. So now I'm going to lower my opacity to my sky. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to, with a brush it off of her. And we don't really need to do it too much around the flowers because, and it looks kind of wonky too because the we haven't blurred out the sky yet. All right, let's get this guy up here. And so there is no, it literally is just me.
Do you use a mouse or use a Wacom tablet?
I use a tablet.
Yeah, I have to
Sorry,
get it.
it's going super slow for some reason. Oh, that's why. I'm in overlay mode.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to switch the hardness of my brush. That's the hardest part when you have white shirts.
Yeah.
And I just use the X key to go back and forth. Sorry, it's super slow when I'm recording. I just use the X key to go back and forth. And I'm going to lower the opacity of the sky on there anyway. So it's not going to be crazy. All right. Up here. Hair is the worst.
I know.
Hair is like your least favorite thing in the world. Okay, so what I'm going to do for the hair, I'm going to, I think I'm going to, no, I'm going to see what this does. Okay. So I've got this so far. So I'm going to start with there. Now I'm going to take my gradient tool and black, and I'm going to slide it up just to kind of make it more gradient from the bottom. And that might just take it, yeah, that's kind of taking care of what we needed to take care of anyway. Okay, so I'm going to raise my opacity on my sky to bring it back up just to kind of see. I'm going to do that one more time with my gradient tool. Just kind of slide up. Yeah. Now I'm going to lower the, I'm going to switch, filter, hold on, blur, Gaussian blur, oops, filter, blur, Gaussian blur, because I'm going to have that be blurred out. Because the background there, you can see the far horizon is blurry.
Yep.
And so your sky would not be totally, what lens did you use?
20. This was on a trip, so I only took the 24-70, I think.
Yeah.
Because usually I honestly usually shoot more with prime. I hadn't even taken that out, but my husband was adamant I only take one
lens. I know every time I do that, I only take my 24, and then there's always some beautiful portrait opportunity.
I know.
Every time.
I know, but
sorry, it's
okay.
All right, so I'm also going to work with the light in this case, and I'm going to, I think, add a sun, and then, so we're going to like make this a little bit more minimal anyway. So I'm going to go through my suns. So I always do the kind of the creative first, and then see really how I need to make the image pop. Because once you add the elements that you want to add anyway, then you can kind of go back and see, oh, yeah, she's not standing out. Like right now I can tell I'm going to have to bring that face up. I'm going to have to add details in the face. I'm probably going to lower some other details. Sorry. So I'm going to go to my light overlays. Flare. So it's a white sun. It's a super bright sun. So it's going to have to be white. Try that one. Oh, well, there. Turn off my blur.
When would you want to convert a photo or into a smart object versus a non-smart object?
Smart objects, I use smart objects. When you have a smart object, you can do a smart filter. Now, if it's not a smart object and you make an adjustment to that layer, like we did with the blur, that adjustment is permanent. If it's a smart object, if you'll look here, it does smart filters. So I can turn that. I'll show you in just a second. I always do screen mode for my sons. So slow. Yeah, I kind of like that. So I am going to take a, so I'm going to leave my son just like that. I'm now going to, oh, where'd she go? Oh, I moved. Okay, there we go. Sorry. I'm now going to take my sky and I'm going to add a levels layer masking, clipping mask just to my sky. And you can do that by option right on the line. If you click option and just hover right over the line, it'll create, it'll go get that little icon that makes a smart filter, or makes a clipping mask. And I'm going to bring up my highlights. No, back down. What I'm working on now is I'm just adjusting the color here. So I'm going to bring up my midtones because I want to blow that sky out a little bit right there. And then I'm going to hit Control I. I'm going to hit on the masking layer and hit Command I, and it's going to invert it. And then I'm going to brush it on just in that area that I want it on. A lot of, I'm going to go back to my homemade brush, which is like pressure sensitive. So what I'm hoping to do too is I'm hoping that hair is going to come back by removing some of that sky over there. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and I'll show you with the smart filter. Gosh, this is taking forever, sorry. All right, so with the smart filter, if you'll watch the sky, you can turn it off and on. So now it's sharp, and then now it goes back and forth. And then you can also make adjustments to the smart filter. So a lot of times, like if you want it non-destructive, if you want to make non-destructive changes, you change it to a smart object.
And how do you change it to a smart object?
You can go to, let me, if I can remember. Open a smart object, image layer. There's a selection. I'm gonna make a note. I don't want to waste our time looking for it.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll send it to you later. I know it's up in the menu somewhere, but I can't. I don't want to waste even a minute looking for it. So I've got a note to find later. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here with her hair, and I'm still not happy with how her hair turned out because it's still kind of blown. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad, but I still feel like it could be a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in behind her. And I think I might add some hair as well. I'm going to come in behind her and I'm going to kind of remove with a light brush. I'm going to remove some of the sky behind her. Okay. Next, I am going to start working on her face because we have all of this background and stuff, but her face is still super dark. So I'm going to add a levels layer, and I'm just going to bring up her face. I'm going to bring up the highlights,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking at her face because I'm going to brush it on later. And I'm going to bring up the midtones, not that much. I'm going to bring down the darks a little bit. There we go. All right, now I'm going to brush it on. So where are you from?
I'm originally from Puerto Rico, but we live in Virginia.
Oh, okay. What are you doing in Virginia?
To be honest, we've been here for, I want to say, since we got married, like 20 years, almost 17, 18 years ago.
Oh, wow.
But this is honestly for fun. Like, I don't really do it as a business.
Yeah.
But it's my fun part.
Yeah. Well, that's how it started for me. And then I'm like, well, maybe I could just turn it into a business. Sorry. And then I did, and I had clients, and I was booked solid all the time.
That's good.
But I didn't charge enough in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, like and that's how I knew. And what I started doing is I started thinking, okay, well, if I'm too busy, so I need to charge more until I'm as busy as I want to be. Yeah. And it was like, I charged more and I was still busy. I charged more and I was still busy. And I'm just like, good grief.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it was really good, but I got super burnt out.
Mm-hmm. Do you still take clients or?
No. I have a set of clients who, sorry, my computer is just absolutely unbearably slow. Okay, so I might try to remove this flower. It's something I might do. Are you comfortable doing that? Is that something you'd want to watch me do?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so for me, for this kind of situation, I would make sure I duplicate my background so that I'm not like destroying the background. And on that duplicated layer, here's what I would do first. The very first thing I would do is I'm going to remove, I'm going to show it so it just shows that background layer. So I'm just working on that. I want to remove the sky. And I would come in, the first thing I'm going to do is come in and just kind of almost sloppily, actually I'm going to duplicate this again because I think I did something on this one. So this is only, and I'm going to name this rid of flower. I am a layer junkie and I keep all of my layers. So I'm going to, sorry.
When you save it though, you flatten it or no?
Some people are like, oh, done, flatten. Oh, done, flatten.
But then afterwards I'm like, I want to change something and I can't.
Exactly.
And sometimes when I try to do that, because I have to save it back into Lightroom, it says it has too many layers, like it can't save it.
Yeah, it's too much. It's got too much memory. So what I do is I come in. I'll talk about that in just a second. What I do is I come in and I just honestly, sloppily remove it. I don't even think about it, and all I'm doing is adding white because now I know that if I add that sky back, yeah, exactly, and I can just come through here and with my white brush selected, because remember we did the selection, I can come through and I can, yeah, I can. Oh, actually, what I would do for that is I would just show the mask, and then I would select, I would do a copy, because now you've got this opacity down here that you can't copy. So what I did is I clicked, I think option or command layer, or not command, excuse me. No. Option, and I click the layer. So now I'm just looking at the layer. And so what I would do is I would take the clone stamp tool, because if you just come in here with a black brush or a white brush, it's going to be way too bright. It's not going to be. So you can either take your brush tool and select this gray and brush it in, or you can select your clone stamp tool and do the same thing. So you can just come in here. You want to make sure it's on the same gradient, because remember we used a gradient. So you just want to make sure you're on the same line as that. So you can come in and I mean, it's just so much easier in my opinion to do it that way. Okay. So it's okay that she's super wonky. Yeah. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to create a layer mask on that crazy fix that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to click Command I. And I'm going to come in with my brush. And I'm going to paint on specifically where I want the flower removed on the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And then all you have to do is just paint on, and then you can use the layer mask. And if you accidentally go, oh, oops, you can either click undo or switch to the black brush.
Yep.
And brush it off. So it's super, super, super easy to do it this way. Come on. Sorry, I keep having to apologize. My computer is just being so slow with the recordings. All right, there we go. So I'm going to do it kind of the same idea with her cheek, with her face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get as close and neat as I can. So I know that I need to come in here with my sky. So not all of them are this complicated, but sometimes you have complicated areas that need a little bit of work. All right. Okay, so then I'm going to come back up to my, and it was right there. I'm going to do the same exact thing. There. All right, so I would do the same thing for the face, or I might, let me see. I might do do you ever use high frequency separation?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you want to learn how to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I do for high frequency separation, and there are lots of, let me turn on these other masks that we have, or all these other layers. See what we're kind of working with at this point. Yeah, so I can get rid of that probably pretty easily, but I'm just going to work on right here. Yeah, because that flower was like super distracting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I am going to use a high frequency. I think Misha, one of those people online, has a high frequency separation.
Action.
Yes. Do you have that yet?
What's the thing?
It's frequencies. What's his name? I got this one from hold on. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Don't waste any time on my crappy brain. Okay, so I'm going to do where to do smart objects and high frequency. Flern. Flern.
Yes.
Yeah. So Flern has a thing that you download. So I'm going to click frequency separation. And before I found Flern, I literally would go through, I would do each step manually, which let me tell you. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to blur it out so you can make out what it is, but so that it's blurry.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done this before?
No.
Oh, okay. And it tells you each step. So you make out each step, so it's blurry, but you can still make out what it is. Mm-hmm. You click OK. So I will tell you, a lot of my editing is just those details. And the little details are what make a huge difference in the end. Okay, so your top layer is your detail layer, and your bottom layer is your color layer.
Okay.
So with your gray, with this top layer, the only thing that it changes is the texture, not the color. Okay. So for this top layer, any changes that you want to make texturally, you do on that. So I am going to take my clone stamp tool. I'm going to zoom in, and we want to get some of those details back in her cheek that were lost. So I am going to make my brush smaller, and I'm going to come in, and just right next to it, I'm going to paint on. Kind of just how you would with clone stamp tool. But the color is going to probably be just a little bit off. And that's okay for now. See, like things like this are complicated and just take a little more time, but it's worth it. All right, I'm kind of going to do it sloppy just so you can see my process. And some of my edits take 10 minutes. Some of my edits take 45 minutes. Okay. It just really depends on how creative I got. Okay, so I'll do this a little bit more in a minute. But I'm going to go, your bottom layer is your color layer. The LF layer, low frequency, is color. And so how you change color, there's a couple different ways. But one of the ways is you add a new layer on top of the color layer. And then you can just paint. That's okay. You can just paint on. And it only affects color, not the actual texture. So I'm going to make a selection of a color right around here. And you can start coloring on and then blend it in. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one down here. So anyway, so you can do this back and forth, and it might even be worth doing. Yeah, there we go. And this helps too with color casting. Anyway, this is super, super sloppy, but I'm just showing you my process. Now it might also, you might also be able just to come in with the clone stamp tool. I'm not going to completely fix this right this second because I just want you to get the clue, and I don't want to waste any more time where you could be learning something different. Okay, so let's see here. Do you want to see how I would add hair? Yeah. Okay. So this is what I do. It's nothing special, nothing fancy. I would go through and I would say hair PNG, and I would Google search for it.
Oh, that's so funny.
I know. So long hair, brown hair, we can search brown hair PNG. And then I just kind of start looking for colors that would match and textures that I might like. Like this could be good for her because you can also manipulate it with the puppet tool. Okay. And
with the puppet tool?
Yeah, I'll show you that. The puppet transform tool. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna use this one. I think that looks good for her hair. Or this one. And I have hairs that match my daughter's that I've used. Why isn't this opening? I love this because it's all the hard work is already done for you. Where did it go? There it is. I like that one. So see how it has all those like little tiny textures? Yes. Okay. So there's a couple different ways that you can do it. Where's my download button? Images. Wait, hold on. In this gallery, you can download free PNG. Here you do download. Sorry, I'm trying to find where it says to download. I was hoping to do maybe
drag and drop.
Yeah, I might be able to just drag and drop it. Sorry, I was trying to do this earlier last night. It's frozen. Sorry.
It's okay.
Hang on. There we go. Alright, so that did not. Yeah, it didn't download. Darn.
There's a click a button. Well,
I clicked the download button. In this page, you can download PNG. Hold on, maybe right click. Download? Yeah, for some reason I'm not able to download it. It's download the image of best resolution of this page and use it for design. Okay. Open, save image as. Maybe, yeah, there it is. Okay. Desktop. There she is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to drag the PNG onto Photoshop. Yay.
That is so funny.
Isn't that hilarious? Okay,
Yeah.
So she's got
The waist, yeah.
movement in her hair. So what I would do is I'm going to make this smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of matches her hair already. I'm going to use that. I'm going to have that kind of coming up. So I do this in 2 layers. So this is going to be my first layer. I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to create a layer mask.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make this selection right here. And then I'm going to double click. All right, hold on. Remove layer mask. So I've got it selected. Now I'm going to create it with it selected. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete around, because you want to have movement, because this is like super stick straight. So I'm going to delete around her hair.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
I was doing the layer.
Mm-hmm. Oops. And then I'm going to delete around this. I'm going to lower my opacity so I can see. And I'm just going to remove it from here. Okay, so then I'm going to go and do, first I'm going to use the filter liquify tool. I'm going to make sure I'm in here, and I'm going to use liquify. And I'm going to see if that can kind of do it, because that might be just what we need. So down here is where the hair was, so I'm going to kind of just give it a little bit of movement. And I'm not going to do this too much, but you can just kind of see that it just gives it a little bit more life in the wind.
Yep.
I'm just going to do that just for all intents and purposes. And so if you zoom out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So I'm not going to totally do everything, but in a composite, in an edit like this, where you have those kind of little details that you want to make a big impact, you can add all of those bells and whistles to it. And I might add some up here. And so with these composites that you see where it's like, wow, why, how, it's a lot of adding those little details, and all that time adds up. So I'm just going to keep moving on. Pretend this is all done. Pretend this is all done. And then I'm going to start, I feel like my background might not be blurry enough. So I would come through and I would maybe, because you want this blurry to match that blurry, and you want this blurry to match that blurry. So it might need to be adjusted. So I would adjust that. Well, then when I would have all that adjusted, I would come through and I would keep making if you can see now, like I'm really drawn to like the flowers and not her face.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna make some more. I'm gonna make some more adjustments to just her face. Let's do another levels. Actually, no. Let's do a curves layer. I'm gonna do a curves layer. Oops, that's brightness. Excuse me. And if you do on the curves layer, if you're in this adjustment right here, you can click on this slider, this hand tool. Do you ever use this one?
Sorry, no.
If you click on the hand tool right here, it has an eyedropper, and you can choose the tone that you want to raise or lower. And so if you hold your mouse down and slide up, it raises that tone up, and if you slide down, it just raises that. So I'm just going to be making specific tones to her face, and I'm going to mask it on in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to bring those darks down a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to mask. I control I, and then I'm going to come in. And just paint it on.
Mm-hmm.
Another tool that I use is, oh Lord Almighty. Another tool that I use, why is this doing this? Oh, because it, of course, tried to create another layer because it's slow. So another tool that I use is, it's called Paint on Color Pop.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I'll have to look and see who it's from. And I love it. And I go through and I'll paint on, then I start painting on color once I get my subjects how I like them. And then I start painting it. It basically paints on like a richness and like a color, just more intense color. So this is obviously super sloppy, but I'm just walking you through my process. The next thing I would do is once I'm happy here and I've made most of the changes. Oh, one other thing I have too is I have a blush brush that I got. Do you have a lot of actions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
a lot of the actions I have are like brushing stuff on, and I have one that is brush on cheeks and lips. She's more of a rose. I have rose and I have peach. And if you brush, then you can use just a light brush tool. Because her skin's looking a little bit flat.
Yep.
Like it just was a little bit flat. So she's got those cute freckles too. You come in here and just with a light brush, you can add touches of pink. And this is obviously clown-like, which I'm not going to keep, but...
Yeah, the lower pass.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can come back and just add a little bit of life back at her cheeks. So once I get to here, sometimes I get to the place, too, where I'm stuck. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm done. And then I'll export it back. Now, what I would also do is I'm going to be mindful of these. So I am going to come through. And this is where I start. This is where all the time comes in. Because I make all these like major adjustments. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, that's too bright or this is too bright. And so I would come through and I would take a levels layer and I would make this a little bit darker. Because we've got a lot of, this is, when I look away and I look back, my eye goes directly to her bright shirt. And you want it to go directly to her face. And so then I'm going to start making these changes on here where I'm like, oh, okay, I want to lower that and bring up the face. I want to, and so I sometimes have to like go back and come back in just to kind of get a revision. This is, so let me, levels, I'll just do levels there. So I am going to lower the shirt, do the same exact thing. Good grief. Lord Almighty, this is so slow. All right, so I'm going to lower my highlights because I want that shirt to just be a little bit darker. And then I'm going to just come in with a light brush. I'm going to invert, come in with a light brush, and then just kind of brush that on. And that is what I do until the cows come home. Or make those little tiny changes. Now, I'm also thinking too, like when you look at this, what's your eye immediately drawn to?
The flowers are very yellow.
Yeah, the flowers are very,
It's
okay.
the pop of color.
Exactly. Okay, so maybe we might bring down the yellows with a, whatever. My eye is drawn to this whiteness.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, you know what? Maybe I am going to go back. The sun is a little bit too bright. So I am going to actually raise the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm just like walking you through my process of how I perfect the photos. So I think my sun is a little bit too bright. Like usually it's very rare that the first adjustment I make
of course,
is actually oops. Oh, we've got the high frequency separation. So at this point, what I've done, I now can't see my changes underneath because I added that high frequency separation layer.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do at this point is I will make a layer mask. And I will undo the layer mask. And because this was only on her face, I'm just going to brush it back on her face. So that's the only thing that it's affecting.
Okay.
Because we don't need it for anything else. So now I can make changes to all my background layers and it's going to show through because that's not blocking it from showing through. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to raise this sky up here. We might not even need, I don't even think we need the sun, to be honest. I kind of feel like it overpowered her.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come back through and I'm going to put a little bit more blue into the sky behind her.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of add that sky a little bit more back. Like take a light brush and just...
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Kind of brush it back in.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I'm on the masking. I'm masking it back in just lightly.
Yep.
Because now that we've got this hair too, we don't have to worry about blowing matte.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I also what I do too is once I get my sky placed and I have this mask perfect, and I'm like, crap, I don't really like the placement of the sky. Then you can go through. There's this button right here that locks. It's a lock button. If you click unlock, click your sky. Exactly. You just move the sky without affecting the mask. So then I start perfecting the sky and I'm like, okay, I know I liked the color of that sky. Or sometimes you can come in and add a completely different sky. Like maybe you're like, no, that sky is just not working for me. I don't like it. You can come in and add a different sky and then just choose this masking layer to be on that sky. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And you have to make sure you copy your smart filter as well because otherwise it's not going to be blurry.
Okay.
So anyway, so that's what I would do. I would go through and I would probably honestly change this sky out, but you don't, do you want to watch me do that?
Sure.
Okay. So to change the sky out, I'm just going to come through and I'm going to say, okay, I need a new sky. Go to my overlays, sky. Now, you want to make sure whenever you're doing composites, especially with skies, you want to make sure that everything matches. Because if I chose a sunset sky, this light does not match the sunset. And so you can make it match, but the more of a departure from the natural sky that it is, the more intense the edit's going to be. And then you're going to have to use gradient overlays and all this stuff to make your subject match your background. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, so I am going to choose, I guess it doesn't really matter. I'll just choose one that kind of pops. This one's kind of popping out at me, but I want to maybe do it one that's a little bit, I literally have so many. Ooh, I kind of like that one. Let's just see what this looks like for, It's a little too blue, but we can fix that later. But let's just see if we like how it... Anyway, we might not like it, but you'll just see the process. So I'm going to make this bigger. Say here. I'm going to place it. And then I'm going to option click on my layer mask and slide.
Yep.
And then I'm going to right click.
So how do you move the smart filter part?
Yeah, you right click, copy layer style. Right click, Base layer
Okay.
style. Yeah. Exactly. And so, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I kind of like it. I kind of like how the sky is pointing it. But anyway, so that's my process. And sometimes with the creative, I kind of like how all the white is kind of pointing at her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would lighten this guy up, and I would. But anyway, so as you can see, it's literally, but it really is coming together for me. And I actually really like how this is. So what I would do at this point is I would lighten up the sky right here, and I would either
with a level layer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would either paint on, because I've already got that levels layer painted on from before, which I don't really need necessarily. So I'm going to use that same levels layer and just paint on, but really kind of focus up here.
Okay.
And you can also adjust the blues, because the natural blues of that sky were more of like an aqua. They were more aqua. So you could come through and you could do a curves layer, and just make it a clipping mask again. And you can go into your curves layer, and you can go into your, was it maybe red channel? Because red and cyan. And so if we bring down the red in the midtones, yeah, that starts to change it a little bit more, so it's more aqua. Yeah. And then you can also go in with a, not color balance, a hue saturation. And we can select that, and we can start lowering the saturation of it, because it seems like a little bit too saturated. Sorry, it's moving so slow, it's not showing my changes. Yeah, but anyway, so you see, and I actually really like, see how this is pointing at her now, and everything's kind of like your eye is leading back to her. That's exactly what you want. And I would add more hair, and I would add, and I would actually bring up her face a little bit more, maybe bring her hair down a little bit more, bring these highlights down a little bit more, and that is my process. Okay, so let's just say I'm happy with where that's at. I then save all of it, and it goes back into Lightroom. And we can look at the before and after.
Now, how do you do it if it has too many steps that it doesn't save it into Lightroom?
It's usually not because it's too many steps. It's usually because it's too large.
Exactly.
And I will save it as a Photoshop file.
Okay.
So I will click Save As, and I will save it as, because typically you can save it as a Photoshop file, or I will start going through, because a lot of times I'll have like 4 skies in there that I don't need, or I will have all these extra. I'm a sloppy.
What I've been doing is saving as a Photoshop file, and then re-uploading it into Lightroom.
Wait, yeah. If it's too big, that's what I do too.
Okay.
But too, like if you save it in the right file, in the file that it is, you can. Do you know how to import it easily?
Well, I just import it back to Lightroom.
Okay, so what you can do is if you click File, Save As, and save it into the same file that you're working in. Like, so I have all of yours saved. Sorry, it's just, I keep apologizing. It is just so slow.
Oh, no worries.
Waiting for it to pull up my library in just a second. But what you can do is if you save it to the same file that your other files are in, like how like I have all of your files in Mentor Session.
Find missing files or
you synchronize folder.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's super easy. I do that all the time.
That's probably easier. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any questions for me yet? Okay. So let's see where we're at with the Photoshop. How is she saving? Okay, it should be saved. So let's go back in here. Lord Almighty. Oops. All right. So it didn't come through right away, so I'm going to right click and do the same thing. There she goes. Sometimes it's just laggy. I'll click synchronize folder. Did it come up? I think it's trying to, maybe. Where did it save to? Yeah, it should have saved. Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. What while we're doing this, what other photo do you want me to go over? I'll let you pick this next one. I love this. This is
We can, yeah, let's do
awesome.
that
But
one.
which one would you like to see?
I don't know. Honestly, any one of them is fine with me.
This one, honestly, is so good out of camera. I really wouldn't change much about it. I mean, I would the crop, obviously.
Yep.
And I would add clarity.
Yep.
But it's such a strong image right out of camera. Oh, there it popped in. It's such a strong image right out of camera that I would just. I like this. I don't know. Like I like that thing on it. Hold on, it's fucking slow. Yeah, I would probably crop even that out.
It's fine. Yep.
Yeah, I think. But I would have to just kind of play with it. But I 100% love this image. It's really fun, and the textures are super. Was this at the airport? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have your like big camera there?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I also, you know what's interesting is I have been able to get, and for this one I would do an irregular. I would do an irregular crop on this one because you definitely want that sun in there.
Yeah.
Oops. Definitely want the sun in there. I would crop them out. I might even just Photoshop that or no. Yeah, I would just kind of put her because I like her shadow too.
Yeah.
And I might clip the sun a little bit, maybe. I don't know. I kind of like that. And so I would get rid of this and probably.
Yep.
I would get rid of that. I would get rid of this. And then I would up my clarity. And then I would, yeah, I don't even know if I would maybe bring the highlights down.
Yeah,
it's such a strong image. This image might be good with black and white too.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on that one. Because this one you don't really, it's so good out of camera, you don't really need to do much with it.
Yeah.
This one, if it were mine, okay, so here we got this. Let's look at this while it's actually here. Okay, so this was the before.
Mm-hmm.
So this was at import.
Yep.
And this is where we are now.
Yep.
You see like what a dramatic difference it makes?
Yep.
And so once I got back in here, I kind of have some similar, I have adjustments that I make. I like to add clarity to things because I'm just a clarity junkie. I feel like it kind of makes it pop. And then I would add, I would just kind of add a few of my, I would just kind of play with it and do the same thing. Sometimes I feel like when I get back into Lightroom, it is, I get a little bit different perspective. Like all of the changes are universal, so it almost makes me think in like a different way. And I don't know why going from Lightroom to Photoshop back to Lightroom, it's just kind of what I've always done. And I think sometimes it resets my brain to look at it differently. Like, okay, start over. What am I doing with it? So anyway, so that's pretty much how I would do this guy. We're moving on from her. But let's, gosh, with these, I don't even know. I love these so much. Yeah. Obviously, I would just get rid of, again, with this one, it's just going to be, you know, you could even take this in a whole direction where you add like, where you do a pink sky or where you do like a, but again, with this, it's just going to be, that crop is going to be super important. But yeah, I don't know. I would have to think on this one. Because sometimes too, when you have an image, like I'll have images that I sit on for weeks and nothing, I don't feel anything for them. I just don't feel anything for them. And then I come back and really start thinking and then I'm like, oh, I have this idea. You know what would be good with this one? Have you thought about doing bird overlays?
Oh, no, that's true.
Because I like her. Let's try this one. Let's do this real quick. Do you have time?
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to do this. It is looking a little too blue, maybe. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. We've kind of lost our sky a little bit. add a little bit of clarity. Okay, I'm gonna pop it over into Lightroom or Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
What was your were you have a pretty narrow aperture? What were you on?
No, because that was the same trip. That's
you were far away.
0.8 is the lowest it goes.
2 point. What was it?
2.8.
2.8. I know. I hate that. Well, and when you're wide angle, if you're not close, you can't get it. It pretty much everything is in focus. Okay, so same thing. You can go down and you can download bird overlays and everything, but I think I have a couple birds. No, these aren't going to be good birds. You want seagulls. These are different. It's too quick. What's her name? You know what I'm thinking about? Do you follow Julia Krim?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know her seagulls. I'm gonna do seagull overlay. Oh, and you can find tons of them. And it would probably be worth just purchasing. But you could do a really cool image with.
That's true.
I'm gonna do seagull PNG. I'm gonna try to find just some free ones real quick. I always look for free, and then I look for. Yeah, you could do. This one would be really fun to do, and then you could even add a sky overlay too, like a. I wouldn't do.
What sky would you do with that? What color? That I find sometimes struggle when you do a sky overlay with. Obviously, I know you can't put a pink sky, but
you could though. You could do a pink. Let's kind of look and see what that would look like.
Meaning, like, I don't know which one to select that would make it look more natural, or not natural, but like that it would be. You would think.
Yeah.
Should he just add one? You know.
Yeah, something that's going to be easier to edit. Something that's going to go along the line. Well, what you want to do is look at the natural sky. It's pretty mellow. There's not a lot of dynamics to it. But you could even just paint on. You know what I mean? Like there are so many different ways to do it. Let me look at my skies and let's kind of start from there. See what we have. Do you have the Florabella skies?
Yeah.
Could do something like that. I'm trying to see if I have any like good painterly skies. Like this one might. That one might be cool.
Yeah.
It's gonna add a little bit. This one, I don't know. No, I want to keep it kind of neutral. I want to keep this clouds soft. I feel like this one needs like it doesn't, because she's so far away, you don't want really anything that's going to pull your eye away from her. You just want something that's going to like frame her a little bit more pretty. Okay, this is kind of pretty. That's kind of pretty.
Yeah.
So what's really cool about that would be really, I think, pretty. But you could probably achieve that with just like a soft brush layer. Here, let's do this. I'm going to try this real quick just to see what this does. So I'm going to paste that and I'm going to select this color because I like that color. And I'm going to select the color and then I'm going to
paint it on.
Yeah, I'm going to come in with a new layer and I'm going to do soft light and see if how that affects things. Yeah. That's really pretty. Wait for it to kind of all catch up.
Yeah.
Because it's the slowest it's ever been. I'm trying to think too, you might even be like, you could add a ship out here. You could, I mean, there's a lot you could do with this because it's such an open canvas. Okay, so this is the, after. So it's just kind of, I like what that's doing. And then I would come in with like a super light brush, like, and just kind of brush it on super light all across her. That's really pretty. And I wonder if you would even get rid of this. Have you thought about doing that?
No, I actually haven't.
Okay, because when I'm looking at this, I want to be drawn to her.
To her, not to the, yeah.
And not to, but this kind of frames her, but what I'm going to do, what I would do for this one, I would, honestly, I'm going to just see something real quick. Yeah, I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to invert it or flip it horizontally. And I'm just going to see, like, obviously it would need a ton of work, but I just kind of want to see what it would look like without that. And so I'm going to brush it on real quick, just up here. Because I like it. Or, ooh. You know what we could do? Hold on. Let me paint this on real quick. I'm kind of getting more than one idea. I'm going a little bit crazy. I kind of like that.
Yep.
So let's pin that. Another thing you could do is if you really did like this, you could balance it. So we could select her. I'm going to Command J, copy her. Move her. Make her bigger. Yeah. She's closer to us now. Oh, why are you not? There we go. So you've still got that water, and we'll be able to like fix that. But I don't know if I like her there. So I'm going to see that. I kind of liked her here with that. Which one did you like better?
I do think I like the other one better, but I would never have thought of doing this, and I like it as well. To be honest. Yeah,
well, and this, how I would do this, what you can do is you can go to filter. Do you ever do the select subject? Okay, you can go to the select subject because we're on this layer. It's just going to select the subject. And then you can do it, and then you can click mask.
Oh my god.
I know. Nice. But now I will tell you, like her feet, you're going to have to fix her feet. So you come back in here with a mask, with a white brush, and we can brush back in that shadow that was behind her. And you can brush back in her toes up front. You can kind of brush back in maybe her hand. But I think that took 2 seconds. But anyway, so that's one option. Or you can do both.
Yeah.
But I kind of like her. What I might do is I kind of like her position here. I might add her here and just add her there, but a little bit bigger. Oh, she's interfering with this other layer mask. Hold on. And I might just make her a little bit bigger. Oh, it keeps doing that. Sorry. You could just make her. I kind of like her small. I don't know. I would toy with that a little bit. Maybe making her just slightly bigger. Oh, that's why it's doing that. It's because she's not on top of the layer. Hold on. There. So I might make her just bigger right there. Oops, wrong layer. And then clean her and obviously like remove her from that. Yeah, I kind of like her just a little bit bigger there maybe. I don't know. I would go back and forth. But then I would say, okay, well, I really like this. Do we want to add a more dramatic sky? Do we want to add the birds? I would probably I might add the birds. Let's try to see what this looks like when we add this sky. I definitely like the bird idea. But now at this point, too, you have more room to add more drama to the sky. Because before, when we had this guy, there was just kind of a lot going on. But I don't know. I kind of like it. I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I go back and forth. So anyway, this would be one of those edits where I kind of I probably go back and forth just a little bit on.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to have her not be, yeah, I'm going to brush off that. But if you're going to have her, you might even be able to use her, just have her be tiny. But we're going to have to come in here with a, and make her stand out a lot more, or maybe even crop in just a little bit. But anyway, so as you can see, and then so we can play with the sky and add the birds and just start adding elements that, weren't there. Or you could even like add a boat out here.
Yeah.
Like there's so much you could do with this. And this is one of those edits that would probably, it could either take you like 10 minutes or it could take you like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like it's just one of those, that's just kind of the creative process.
Now,
go ahead.
So if you want to make the subject stand out, just basically by brightening the skin, or what other things can you do to make them stand out?
To make them stand out. What I dodge and burn.
Mm-hmm.
I dodge and burn, and so I either make things around them darker or make them brighter. And it literally is just a painting on process until I get myself to the plate. If you look away, and I have to walk away from these, never post a composite right after you, because every time, like I just did that, and I was just needing a photo, and I did a composite. It was my daughter running up to, there was a swing in the background, and like it was like a major composite.
I saw that one.
It is so sloppy, and it is like the tree is too dark. It's like there was so much wrong with it, but I was like just posting it. And so with composites, you have to be willing to give it time to kind of, grow. But anyway, I really like this.
But that one seemed pretty hard to do because of all the trees in the background.
That composite wasn't that hard.
Really?
It really wasn't that hard. No, because I just moved it around and I added a fake tree and I added fake birds, and it was super easy, but it looked kind of sloppy. Like it was just, I just shouldn't have added. Oh, I like this guy. Let's see what that one looks like. Yes. I kind of like that one. What are you thinking?
Yep.
I really like that. So I'm just going to kind of see. Let's try our darken. Yeah, obviously that one's not going to work with this. Or you could do, what I do sometimes is I do normal. And with these especially, I will add a layer mask.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Surprised mine having come in.
Yes, go play, sweetie. You're welcome, sweetie.
How old is she? Or he? Or she?
It's a she. She's a 2-year-old.
Oh, look at that.
That is pretty.
Yeah. That's really pretty. And it goes with this. And you could just even paint in a little bit more pink on the ocean. But I actually that's really pretty. So what I would do for this, geez, I don't know. I'm like so stuck because it's like, I don't want to change too much about it.
Mm-hmm.
I might make a little less sky and a little more her. A little less other things and a little more her.
But I do like the idea of the seagulls, because actually there were some that day, and I think I did take some photos.
Yeah. So let's do that really quickly. Do you have time?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you.
We have to run out. Like if we can do another session, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a little more time because I was late, and then my computer's just been.
Oh, it's okay. No, it's okay.
Yes. All right. So let's go to Google while that's taking forever. Let's do bird PNGs. Let's see if this one's free. I always like to look for free stuff. Because if you don't have to pay, then it's even better. Yeah, because you could add tons of like interesting seagulls all around her. And I like how she's got her hands up. And you could also play with the dimensions. Play with how large and small she is. That would be super easy to do. But I kind of like where she's at. I kind of like that she's so small.
Small and the big, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that she's so
I
small.
do like it because the waves were, and that's what I loved about it. What I was trying to capture, the waves were as tall as, like the waves were amazingly huge.
Yeah, and you know what you could even do? You could even make her smaller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you could play with those dimensions as well if you were wanting to do that. So you could like make her, make this seem like even bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you could play with that as well. But anyway, let's do the birds. Let's find some free birds. All right. No, not gonna. Let's do free. I know I've downloaded some before, and you could do. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, let's check him out and see what he's working with. Oh, okay. Are these free? Hey, these are all free, so you could just do a whole bunch of these. Now, I will say, with adding these, I'll show you. Oh, sign in. Of course. I think I've tried to sign in before with this one. It didn't work. I mean, okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, it's not letting me sign in. Whatever. I don't waste too much time. Let's see. This one's kind of cool. So with the composites, you have to be super. Why is this doing this? What is it? You have to be careful because if it looks too sharp, if the color is not right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's being upgraded. Good grief. Let's do seagulls. Did I spell that right? Probably not.
Yeah, what?
Is it 2 L's? No.
I think.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Who knows? Okay, well, you get the point. So we'll just. Ooh.
Mm.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. Oh, so it did download it. Yay. And now what I would do?
Blur them a little bit.
Yeah. You're definitely gonna want to blur them and make them smaller, but I would also this is another trick that I just recently learned. Okay. So you want them to match. That looks really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
These big white birds. And this is going to be where you creatively spend a lot of time is like bird placement. And I would actually even duplicate this layer and mask out so you have each of them on a separate layer. Honestly, that's what I would do. So I would zoom in and we're going to probably have to blur them out a little bit, but you're also going to have to make their highlights kind of match the pink.
Okay.
And make, because it's adding pink and it's adding all this like pretty softness. So you could either add a, let me see. So there's like a lot of different ways to do it, but I'm going to add a new layer and I'm going to just do soft light for this one. And now you could. No, you know what? I'm going to show you something that I do that kind of takes a while. So I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to do is I am going to set my highlights and my low. I'm going to set everything so that it matches here, and then I'm going to apply it to the birds, if that makes sense. So so for this one, this is setting the black point. So I'm going to double click on that to set the black point, and I am going to find the blackest part of my image, and that is probably going to be her hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to find the blackest part of the image, and it's going to be right there on her hair, or maybe right even in here. No. Oh, I'm not selected. That's why. Oh, hold on. All layers. Current and below. Current layer, current and below. Let's try that. Sorry, you have to make sure that you're selecting the right colors. Why isn't it selecting colors? Sorry. Hold on. Sample, current, and below. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to add a curves layer. Sorry. These little things. I'm going to set my black point. Hopefully. Sorry, I don't know why it's not selecting. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy. Oops. I'm going to do it this way because for some reason it's not working. Huh. Sorry.
It's okay.
Waste your time. I don't know why this isn't working. Current and below. Point sample. 555 average.
Sophia's, yes, Sophia. No, the first go play with yours.
Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to make my life easier because for some reason I can't figure out what it's doing. So I'm going to hit Shift, Option, Command, E. And that's just going to create a layer with all the layers on it so that I can figure out what the hell going on. So I'm going to do a curves layer.
Okay. Later. Yes.
I don't know what I'm gonna have to get back to you on this one. I'm gonna send you a separate video because for some reason it's not letting me select. Yeah, and so what I should technically be able to do is set my black point, and it's not letting me set my black point, which I don't know why. So I'm gonna get back to you on this one.
You have to select that little. There's like almost like a zigzag or an end.
There's a what?
To the left where you have the black point below, you have 3 color pickers, and below that, the end, that one. Below? There, the end. Right on top of that one.
This one?
What is that one?
This is just adjusting your...
Okay, so but you have to select that section or no? It's not selected.
No, because you want... Okay, what I'm trying to do is set my black points, but it's only selecting white, and I don't know why. And so I should be able to make an adjustment here and say current and below, and then it will select. But it's for some reason not doing that, and I'm not understanding why.
Okay.
Current, all layers, no adjustments, all layers. So it should make a sample of all the layers, but it's not doing that. So,
and then once you've selected that, would you then just move it around or how? Oh,
sorry. So what this does is I'll send you a video on it, but essentially what you can do is you can set up your black points, your midtones, and your brights. And then you can have those match the layer. So you see how this bird
it's so white. Yeah.
is like super white and the blacks are super black and it's super contrasty and everything else in the image is like super muted. Well, that's essentially what you're trying to do. You're trying to match that. And now I could go through and I could just, let me see. Now I could go through and I could just, oh yeah, because it's only affecting that. I could just add a layer to this guy. Hold on just a second. Where's my birds? I'm gonna bring the birds up. Yeah, see, when I bring them on top of this, it makes them crazy bright. So even just by adding that pink overlay, it helps them match a little bit. But if I add a curves layer and I adjust, I'm not even going to try to do this because, well, so if I take my blacks and I lower my blacks, yeah, so you can lower your blacks, you can lower your whites, and it'll start matching them a little bit closer. And then you can start playing with that. And I'm going to send you a video on how to make that match. Then I'm going to go into I would go into my blues or my red channel. No, let's go into the greens because the green's going to make the pink hue. And I am going to select there, and I'm going to bring that up to make it a little more pink. Because lower to pink. Because it's a little bit too green. And so so you can start playing with the curves adjustments, and there's an easier way to do it, but for some reason it's not working for me. Anyway, so if you look at them without it, with it, and you can start playing with it so that they match. But anyway, I mean, we could go all day on the little nuances of doing that, but this could be a really cool image. I would also make sure that I filter, gauge, and blur them just a little bit. But this image could be like crazy, amazing, and just a stunner. But anyway, so that's how I would do this one. And there are so many, and this, like, obviously I would clean this up a little bit, but that took like, 2 seconds to remove that? It was so super easy. So I would make little adjustments to that. But yeah, and then to make her stand out, I would 100% add a levels layer to her. Or curves. I mean, I guess you could do curves too. Bring it to the top. So I'm gonna add a levels layer, and I'm just gonna start moving stuff around till she stands out. It's so slow. All right. And then I'm gonna make her a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more dark. Because you don't want to change the contrast of her too much, but sometimes just having it be a little bit. So I do that a lot. I make changes, I do brushes just on her. Now what I've done also, yeah, see, obviously I blurred them too much because you want them to match. So, but you can play with that. That's just going to be taking a critical eye. And then I would just kind of brush it on. So her little hair stands out, her skin stands out. I like to bring up skin, and then I also dodge and burn. So I've created layers, and you also want to be really mindful about not having a halo.
Yeah.
Halos are the worst. They just look really unprofessional. But anyway, so that's what I